Hello Internet. Today we're going to be talking about the differences between P and S waves, or transverse or longitudinal waves. So these transverse waves we all have seen on an oscilloscope. I have here marked 5 volt 0 and 5, negative 5 actually. So this is how we all understand waves. We have our amplitude here, we have our wavelength here, we also have our frequency here, because wavelength and frequency are derived by a simple equation. This isn't actually right, but it has all of the components of it. So the frequency is divided by the wavelength or the velocity. There's actually supposed to be this little symbol in there. It's basically just inverting the two. So if you look at a function generator, you'll see the period and you'll see the frequency. You can switch between these at any time to see the difference. But that isn't really important. When we come down here, we see we have these nodes and these antinodes. These antinodes, or the rarefaction points, well, if we were to measure the amplitude here, we need to measure how much energy is going into that. How do we do that? Well, from the stuff I've seen online is we have to, like amplitude, closest of coils in compression. So what we have to do is now take the modulus of it, see how much that's compressed, and then figure out how much energy is in it that way. So basically, if we have our pen here and our pusher here, this comes along, pushes it, and now this is traveling away from that. But if this stays in contact because there's another force here, we can have a transverse wave that oscillates back and forth. So this transverse wave is being governed right now by an actual spring. But let's now say we want to take this into another way. So a spring has a velocity of whatever you put into it, but this stick that is conveniently painted and glittered and burnt and all sorts of things. But if we take this stick and we hit it now, that energy is, that impact, that bounce that we see when this impacts, that bounce is going to be transmitted from here to here. And that bounce is very high frequency compared to this velocity, just because when this compresses, when this gets smaller, and then the wave reaches here, it bounces back. It's called a reflection in the wave. And then it comes here, and it's like, hey, we were just touching, but now that wave pushed us forward, and it comes back, and it hits that, and then now we have a dual oscillator. This complex oscillator is very hard to determine. Also, if we then take into consideration we have our transverse waves, so bending like this, which only solids can do. So if we take that and now we push it like that, we still get our bounce like that. So we get our transverse wave, but we also still get our bounce like that pushes it forward. In this case, it's not actually pushing it forward, it's pushing it on an angle. So if we were to take this and grow it just slightly, we'd see that the wave is going to come in like that, but then it's going to have to bounce like that, and that, and that, and that, all the way up that. We see this in fiber optic cables because we have so in fiber optic cables we shine a light, and the light has a particular wavelength that fits the glass fiber. So that glass fiber will bounce the wave all the way to the destination, and in doing so will deliver a very clean signal. This is not a phase lock signal, though. This is a amplitude modulated signal. So what do I mean by phase in that situation of a fiber optic cable? Well, the phase of the wave, when it comes in, it's going to bounce, but then it's going to do that as well, because the fiber optic circles and snakes around until it gets to its destination. That's the same effect we're seeing here when we hit things side on. So in this example right here, there is no documentation out there that describes what happens when you hit an object like that and you expect to know the amplitude here and here. You have to do some very complex simulations, which I haven't been able to find, although it could just be down to lack of trying, but I've been at this for 2 years now. So essentially what I'm trying to figure out, well, if you've seen the rest of the channel, you know what I'm trying to figure out. What is the relationship between these two that lets us have a vibration in the body that has a given amplitude that is small enough to be able to be on the cellular level and be able to regrow things such as DNA and all sorts of different things based upon the wavelength. That is what we're trying to figure out. Why 741 hertz it heals the body, or why all of these frequencies heal the body. That's what we're trying to do here. There's not really a good understanding right now. A lot of people will go out and they'll do a happiness, sadness versus anger and calm graph. Well, the problem with that is if we have a bunch of nodes here that are filled up with crap and our S wave comes in and vibrates everything, it doesn't work. We don't have an answer. And that's a problem to me, because if we go to a Marvel movie and we watch it without any video, we still get all the emotional responses of the major cutscenes. And why is that? That's literally down to audio controlling our emotions. It governs a lot of things in this world, and we don't have a good explanation for it. In the coming years, I'm going to try to do my best to try to explain it, because it has helped me tremendously, but no one seems to want to talk about it. So if you're a content creator that uses specific frequencies to get your viewership up, i.e. you're using mental clarity frequencies, focus frequencies, memory recall frequencies, speech enhancement frequencies, please let me know. It could just be a magical box you type your stuff in, and that's how it works for you on the YouTube side. If you're a researcher trying to do things that benefit humanity, please let me know. If you know how to calculate S&P waves in Earth, let me know, because that would be a very useful starting point for this. Because whenever I look up transverse and longitudinal waves, longitudinal waves in particular, I get a bunch of crap. And right now, if you view this as a speaker, you get amplitude out that looks like this. That's not helpful. Like, yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you have 1 hertz and you have 2 hertz, you will get out 0.5 hertz out of that. If you play a frequency through a subwoofer and you play a second frequency through a subwoofer, you still get out both tones. So anybody that says I'm just rambling on about shit now, have a good day, YouTube, and hopefully we can figure out this dilemma before the Earth explodes or other catastrophe, you kind of name it.